So in 2019, I bought a house in downtown Healdsburg, totally remodeled it, and then last year I decided to move to rural Healdsburg. And you might be surprised to hear how it's going. In this video, I'll share the things I love about living out of town compared to living a 10-minute walk to the plaza, and whether or not I made the right decision. So welcome back, and if you don't know who I am, my name's David. And over the past few years, I've helped over 100 families just like you buy and sell in Sonoma County, and we became the #1 team in record time. But before I moved to Healdsburg, I lived in the Bay Area. We always dreamed of moving to wine country, and we first purchased in rural Healdsburg nearly 10 years ago. Yet we realized that wasn't what we were looking for. So we bought a place in downtown in 2019. Now, only 4 years later, we're leaving downtown, moving back to rural Healdsburg. So I wanted to share several things you must know before buying a home in Healdsburg to avoid the costly mistakes I made. But I also wanted to share the best things about living in rural Healdsburg and why I won't miss living in downtown. At the end, I'll even share with you a complete breakdown of living in downtown versus rural Healdsburg that you can get access to for free. So the first thing is no more walking to the plaza. I mean, the biggest single thing I was worried about was really missing being able to walk to the downtown plaza, especially in the evening, walking to bars and restaurants. The reality is I haven't missed it at all. I think the reason is because I'm only a 5-minute drive away from the plaza. It doesn't really take me any longer to get into town. It's probably quicker, in fact. It just means I'm just not getting my daily steps in. We've had so much rain so far this winter, I think I may have had limited options to walk into downtown, even if I hadn't moved. And the big test will be in the summer and whether I'm happy doing the 25-minute walk into town on a summer's evening. I mean, do I miss being in town? I definitely come into town less because if I run out of milk, for example, previously I would have walked to Shelton's in downtown to pick some more milk up, but now I just make do without and use a substitute or, well, as I say, just go without. I mean, the good thing about that is we probably waste less food and are a little more resourceful, which can only be a good thing, both from a financial and a wastefulness perspective. But what would really be a waste is if you enjoy the outdoors, wine country living, food, and everything else Sonoma County has to offer, then you don't want to waste the opportunity to subscribe. I make videos like this to help you discover life in Healdsburg and Sonoma County. So if that's you, then make sure you subscribe. So the next thing I want to talk about is living in nature. When we lived in town, at the front of the house, we looked out at our neighbour's house, and at the back, we had a nice yard, but we were surrounded by fences, so we never really got to take in nature. Now we sit in our kitchen, sit in our living room, or in the yard and look out across vineyards and don't really see any other houses. It just feels a little more relaxing, not to mention seeing and hearing the sight and sounds of nature, which I personally really love. I mean, you may think I'm a little strange, but I do quite like lying in bed hearing coyotes at night or hearing the chickens in the morning. We also have a couple of woodpeckers that live around the property, which is not all good because I don't necessarily enjoy hearing their mating call as they drill literally like a jackhammer with their beaks up in the roof eaves. I mean, I'm working on a solution to mitigate it, but that's another story. The other experience of nature that is probably less welcoming is the ant invasion we've had. I think because it's wet, the ants and the ladybirds run for cover into the warmth, so we've definitely had to deal with little insects a lot more than we did when we lived in town. It's just a fact of life, living in a more rural setting, which anyone considering buying a rural home should definitely be aware of. So now let's talk about utilities. I mean, one of the cool things about living in the city is that you get utilities from Healdsburg Electric, a dedicated utility serving the city with electricity, water, sewer, and gas. I mean, this is good because Healdsburg Electric, unlike PG&E, very rarely shut off power. I mean, I was concerned about moving away from city services. I mean, where we live now, because we're outside of city limits, we've got a well, we've got a septic tank, we've got PG&E for electric, a propane tank for gas, and then Starlink for internet. In one way, I was right to be concerned because our electricity it's been out 3 times so far in just 4 months. I mean, this was due to the various storms that we've had rolling through this winter. So at various times, the power was shut off, presumably due to downed trees and power lines. And the good news is that we do have battery backup, so we were largely not impacted. It has made me realise that if you do choose to buy a rural property, you really do need to get some sort of backup system for the house, because if you lose electricity, you'll also lose water because the well pumps won't operate without electricity. Unfortunately, the people who set up our system didn't back up our well for some strange reason, but that's an easy fix which we're just getting sorted. Having a well is great though. Firstly, water's free, and second, the water is really nice and a lot softer than city water, so great for washing. My other concern was not being on Comcast for internet. I mean, obviously, internet is super important. Again, now that satellite internet is available from Starlink, getting fast internet in a rural property, in a remote location, is a non-issue. I mean, it does cost a little bit more at $120 per month, but we've had no issues with the quality of the internet, even with multiple devices streaming at the same time. The only downside when it comes to utilities is having to buy propane rather than natural gas. It's seriously expensive. I mean, we did have a small accident whereby our pool heater accidentally got turned on while we were away, and we blew through $1,000 of propane literally in a few days, heating our pool in the middle of winter. I mean, if nothing else, it's a huge incentive to reduce propane usage. I mean, let's face it, by 2030, everyone in California will have to switch from gas furnaces and gas water heaters and gas stoves, so we may as well reduce our usage and reliance on propane now. I mean, we're lucky because we have an electric heat pump to heat the house, and we're about to switch over to a heat pump for our pool, which I'm excited about. So our only reliance on propane is going to be very minimal, mainly for the stove. And the other great thing about living in rural is hiking and biking straight from our house. If we went for a walk from our house in downtown, we'd walk to the plaza, often walking different streets just to mix it up a bit. Whereas now, we'll walk out of our house and we have a 3-mile hike we can do walking alongside vineyards, taking in nature literally right from our doorstep. I mean, it's different in that we don't bump into friends who live in town, but it's nice getting the feeling of being out in the middle of the countryside right from our doorstep. The same is true for going for a ride on my bike. Rather than negotiating my way through town on my way out of town on a ride, I'm right on West Dry Creek Road shortly after leaving my house. It's a nice change of scenery to start a ride in that way. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoy hiking and biking like me. And what's your favourite in the area? I'm curious to know. So now let's talk about driveways and garages. I mean, this might sound a little strange, but if you live in downtown Healdsburg, the chances are you only have a single car garage, and you may often end up parking on the street. If you're anything like me, well, I did have a double garage. One half was for storage and bikes, and the other half was for a gym and the Peloton. And our driveway was long and thin, so we often ended up parking on the street to save us having to continually shuffle cars around. I mean, those days are over. We now have a triple garage, lots of parking, and we even park our cars in the garage. How crazy is that? Even when it's pouring with rain, we just walk straight into the house. I know this isn't a big deal, especially when you come from England like me, because in England, it's very rare for the garage to connect to the house, but it's just a really nice little luxury. What's more, the cars stay clean for longer, so yeah, a lot less car cleaning. But the real big advantage is more space, more yard, and fewer neighbours. And this is probably the biggest single upside for me. I hope this doesn't come out the wrong way, but it's really nice not having neighbours who watch your every move. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was nice bumping into neighbours and having a couple of neighbours who actually became some of our best friends. And I do really miss having them live opposite, but it's nice not having neighbours who see every time you go in and out of the house, or that can hear everything when you're out in the backyard. By virtue of living in a more rural environment, your neighbours will be further away because you'll likely have a bigger yard and larger than your standard 6,000, 10,000 square foot lot, typically of a downtown yard. We're lucky that we've got half an acre which looks out over somebody else's vineyard. For me, this is the perfect size. It's a nice size to have plenty of parking, plenty of room for vegetable planters, plenty of room for outdoor dining, outdoor seating, with a fire pit, a few trees and a pool. So we really don't need more than half an acre. And what it does mean is that our home is now more of a destination if friends come to stay for the weekend, because there's just plenty of space for everyone to hang out, enjoy the pool and live outside. In some ways it changes the experience when friends come to stay. Of course, we still go into town, but it feels like we're equally likely just to spend time at home and enjoy it. While this all may be a lot to remember, and over the past 2 years, I've made a handful of videos like this talking about living in downtown versus rural Healdsburg, which I'll link to below. But if you want to save time from watching more videos and get access to a complete breakdown for free, then please make sure you download my downtown versus rural Healdsburg comparison sheet in the description below. I clearly outlined for you all the differences, the pros and cons, and to help you decide which one is better for you. So if you want to access that for free, then grab yours using the link in the description below. But am I glad I made the decision to leave our house in downtown? At this stage in my life, definitely. I feel like the fact that we have room for a pool, we're out in nature, have more space and privacy, and yet we're just a 5-minute drive to town. I mean, it really is a great compromise to get the best out of both worlds. It's made me realise that I couldn't live in a house that is a 25-minute drive from town. It would just be too much of a trip to make a couple of times a day. Would I ever consider living in downtown again? Absolutely. I can actually see myself moving back into town in, say, I don't know, 10, 15 years when I want to simplify my life a little bit, or if we start traveling a lot more in our retirement and are looking for something that is just easier to just lock up and leave. But for now, living in rural Healdsburg, it's perfect. So if you made it to this point in the video, there's a good chance that you're thinking about buying your next home, or investing in this area, buying a second home, or even selling your current one. We'd love to be your real estate resource of choice, so just email me at david@brewingtonhargreaves.com to get started. Our team is the #1 Sonoma County team, helping over 70 families in 2023 with over $75 million of homes bought and sold. We'd love to help you, whether you want to live in Sonoma County or live in Healdsburg in particular, and whether you're looking for a downtown place or a rural property. If you want to get inside access to properties that are coming on the market, the best places to buy a vacation rental or second home, and way more, then please do reach out to me. And hey, before you go, if you like this video, you'll love my next video, which is the Insider's Guide to Rural Healdsburg. There I break down the different areas you can buy a rural property in and around Healdsburg. So make sure to check it out. See you in the next video.